Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our first session called Focusing on the Judiciary, focusing on the failed state agencies. This afternoon, we have with us Ms. Michelle Mitchell, the co-founder of Single Parent Action Network. We have Ms. Tremaine Jews, who is one of our esteemed members, and we have an anonymous member called Derek. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Derek. Good afternoon. We are here to discuss the flaws, the issues that affect many of parents who make applications before the court. Mr. Derek, would you like to start off this afternoon by sharing some of your experiences that you may have had? Good afternoon.
Sure. Once only hearing. You're hearing good, right?
Yes, please, we're hearing you. Mr. Derek?
Hello?
Sorry, good afternoon again, Mr. Derek. We want to start off with you in particular. You're the only man on board, and you are the only man could tell us what are your personal experience you may have had.
I'm not seeing his device. Is he still there? No, he's rejoining. Derek?
We have lost Mr. Derek.
I'm seeing him in the. I'm seeing his
Okay,
device.
sorry. All
Add
right, let me.
this.
Yes, please.
Hello?
Yes,
Hi,
please,
Derek.
Mr. Derek.
No.
Hi, sorry about that. I dealing with Flowban, and that is one of the institutes that kind of failing us presently. So I'd like
Okay.
to start off with that.
All right.
Um, Thank you for having me join as a male. Express the fact that the failure of institutes is not only surrounded around females, but is something generalized. So in dealing with this, whoever at the broader spectrum is listening to see three females on the panel will understand that it's not a female something or a motherhood something, but it is a generalized something that we need to treat with. So I
Yes.
applaud you all for having me join in this afternoon. I would like to start off with the essence of the notion of um, a society that believes that parenting only comes from one aspect, which is gender based of female, but parenting is holistically, and men also have responsibility in society as being voice of children. As was the first, I wouldn't say privilege, but I took responsibility to have an infant into my care totally. Upon such an application was made to have the custody and maintenance hearing before the court, which is not a problem. During that proceedings, an incident happened with my infant while in the mother's care. The the incident is of a nature that resulted in an investigation to determine the type of abuse in the sexual nature, which is all fine. I took the procedure to actually go to the first channel of having the TTPS involved in the infant here with a possibly sexual nature of abuse. How we are not guaranteed that you is not the person. So that was the first institutional abuse in that aspect, rather than to treat with the issue of having the child there. You all hearing me?
We
Yes.
are hearing you.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Derek. Go on.
Hello?
Derek, are you hearing us? We are hearing you.
No problem. So I took steps to have this child examined based on the nature of the injury, and the child was under the 3 years old at the point in time. So I went to seek medical care to find out as to what is this injury of this nature, because it's a boy child. And the area that the injury happened was, suspicious to me. And he couldn't talk, but he could have just complained of the ailment. So the doctors are proceeding to say, listen, daddy, this does not look too good. What we will have is have the TTPS involved, and we'll call them to have a further examination of this infant, which is to actually have the district medical officer come and examine this child. So I stood there with the child. But however, before carrying the child, I asked for a female escort, which the closest person would have been to as my mother. So she escorted me along this journey. At the at the hospital itself, when the doctors took their precaution and followed their protocols, it seems like in society presently that once you are connected or you have some sort of connection and favor, it seems to bring any institute into disrepute and unprofessional actions. So the person who it happened with seems to be a close affiliation or co-workers of one of the TTPS. So I was unaware of what is taking place. And even the doctors asked the TTPS of the district medical officer to come to there, whatever it was explained to the doctors. The TTPS came and removed the child from the hospital and carried the child to a police station in Port of Spain. So before the child was removed, the doctors explained to me that the officers got instructions from whoever, district medical officer, to carry the child to Port of Spain General Hospital and meet them there, because that is the area in which this injury took place. So I am not aware of the protocols. I will expect the professionals within the institute to be aware of that and do what they're supposed to do in this instant. So it's only when we reached the Port of Spain, we didn't go to the hospital, we went to the St. Clair police station, where we was handed over to St. Clair police. At the station, as a father being there, I was actually further ridiculed by these officers being in contact with the person, which is a female who would happen in that care, that they the female expressed the fact that, listen, this male is actually doing this to have some level of control, when actually we are here to find out what happened to the child. So the officers within their personal ideology and thinking decided, well, listen, let us listen to the female and not listen to the child and the injury. It so happened that they didn't allow the child to be examined that particular day and told me to leave with the child at this police station. Mind you, I was supposed to be at Port of Spain General Hospital, where the so-called DMO on file said to meet him or her there. So after leaving, I was kind of confused. So upon leaving the station, I said, well, this had to be wrong. I actually went back to Moncton with the child to say, listen, you all give me instruction that the child is supposed to be at Port of Spain General Hospital. I went to a police station with the child. So the doctors and all was confused as to what transpired during that process. Contacted the office. We gave an instruction for this child to be furtherly examined based on the injury that we saw. How did this child end up in a police station? The officers reiterate that whoever district medical officer directed that he cannot come for them to continue the examination, and some further examination would be held at CAC, which is the Children's Assessment Center, at a later date. I was advised by the senior doctor at that station that that is the wrong protocol and something is going wrong. Be aware, but the only thing the doctors can do is actually write it as a report, give me a copy of the detailed facts about who they called, what time they called, who they spoke to, what was the responses. That is the only thing that they could have done for me at that point in time. And they did that professionally, which is in my possession. So at the later date, 11 days after, I contacted the station to say, listen, you would give the doctors this particular day for this child to be examined. The officer said, listen, we don't have any examination date for that child to be examined on that date. We will call you back. It's so happened when they call me back here.
Derek, we're losing you. Derek, hold on a bit. We're losing you. Miss Clark, you want to do a recap of what it is we think we have heard this afternoon? Let's make sure that we are following what he was saying to us.
From what I gathered is that he indicated that there was an access case where the child would have gone to his mom. And upon return, there was some sort of evidence of some sexual or assault, alleged assault. He would have made a report to the police station. He was referred to one hospital, then to another, and then sent back to the police station. So at this stage now, I'm seeing where he's like a confused parent as to, I am coming to the right authorities, but this is what is happening, which is not protocol. What is your opinion about that?
Do you know what I find interesting about this? Derek is saying that upon receipt of the infant, he as a concerned parent noticed that something was wrong.
Yes.
He went on to alert the authorities.
Yes.
And he was ridiculed, he was shamed, and he was in essence even accused. Because they asked him, how do we know that this did not happen at your hands? And I'm happy that he brought up the fact that care for a child is not gender specific. We as a society are too given to believe that only mothers make good parents. He brought his son, because he said it's a boy child, to be examined because he noticed an injury that caused the child discomfort. But the child was too young to express exactly what had happened to him. So there was his father being his advocate, and there were the authorities making an adversary of the parent by accusing him. Here is what I find it to be interesting, Ms. Clark. If the female in whose care the child had been entrusted had received a harmed child, then that female would have sought medical attention.
Of course.
Any right-thinking individual would know that if the child had just been returned to the father, and the father was now seeking medical attention, then clearly it would not have been occasioned, the damage would not have been occasioned at the father's hands. And now we are seeing undue influence due to connections. Because the female in question had certain connections, there was a corruption in the process. Because even the DMO was surprised. Why don't we want to examine a child sooner rather than later? That in itself is suspect. Why are you telling me that you will examine the child at a later date? When? To give the injuries a time to heal? Isn't it in the best interest of the child to examine the child when the injury is fresh?
I agree with you. I agree with you. Because I would have had a similar experience where I would have, in my case, I made a report to the police station.
Hold on, have you added Derek to the stream? I'm seeing him
He
there.
came on. Okay, yes, hold on.
Yes,
He came on. He came right. He's back on. Should be back on.
Hi, y'all hearing me?
Yes,
Yes,
Derek,
please.
we were
Yes.
just doing a recap
Of
in
that
your
first incident.
absence of what you would have shared with us thus far
Thus
to
far.
ensure that we understand.
No problem. So may
Yes?
I carry on? Yes.
Yes,
From that
please.
incident. No problem. So the examination did happen 11 days after when I asked the question, what is the protocol when a child or any child is being suspected of being assaulted? There must be an immediate action. What is immediate action? Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Right. What is immediate action?
We had
We to
even
compare the
raised that
injury of
point, Derek.
the
We had
first
raised
injury
that
compared
point.
to 11 days after. By that time,
Yes.
it will heal.
Of
Yes.
course. Yes.
CAC continued their examination and they any violence itself, which is expected. Because they had a failure in what they were supposed to do at the point in time to get evidence. We move on to such now. It now goes on to another institute, which the doctors contacted at the point in time of the first injury, Children's Authority, to initiate an investigation. So the report was made to the doctors, and I was, as the parent, supposed to follow up. So I did follow up with Children's Authority to ask, what about the investigation now in the social aspect of what is going on with this child? An investigation was launched. They assigned an investigator. By that time was actually a month after, where I collected all the medical reports from Mount Hope, including that this child was actually referred to a child psychologist privately, because I was told that there is no child psychologist in the government system to treat with children underneath 5. So I had to pay for that service. So I did pay for that service. A report was given to Children's Authority, including the medical report, to now investigate. The investigator made schedule appointments, which I asked the question of, how could you, as a social worker, make schedule appointments in dealing with an issue for a child? Because I could say, okay, you're coming Tuesday, no problem, and I could clean up my act by Tuesday. You're supposed to have the given rights and the knowledge to go at any point in time, unaware to anyone. But they made schedule appointment, which is no problem with that. That is another part that is questionable. However, they got the information and they had to put forward a report to the court. No problem, they did that. Upon the next court hearing, I wasn't even given a copy of the report to read. However, the master had to read it to me. So, but basically, the readings and the findings was only summarized in the readings before the court, not the entirety. So I didn't know how to derive at that recommendation, but I only heard the recommendation that they saw no signs of any injury. They saw no signs of any fact that the child was in an unsafe environment previously, and they see no reason for the child not to enter back into the same atmosphere. So the court was guided by whatever conclusion, and the child went back into the atmosphere on access. And lo and behold, this child keep returning from access with various injuries, vomiting, injury to his toe, vomiting. And I'm saying, if you are bringing back a child that is sick, that you took in good care and bringing back this child sick to me, that I have to constantly go and seek medical attention, then something has to be wrong. Something has to be wrong. And it is subsequently to such that all these injuries that keep happening, the doctors keep referring to what happened to the child in the beginning to say, Daddy, we are seeing a series and form of abuse is taking place. What are you doing in this series? Are you reporting it to the relevant authorities? Yes, ma'am. So they decided to keep reporting these injuries to Children's Authority because it was handed over to them. Now I went ahead now and asked Children's Authority. I said, listen, I need to see what is in that copy of that report that you all submitted, because I give you all medical report. I give you all recommendations from a psychologist to say, listen, the child have some form of trauma. These are the things to follow with the child. As a specialist, to say, take bookkeeping, allow the child to express himself during this period. Very detailed information, and none of that was placed in the report. Only the fact of we saw no safety concerns, we'll send back the child, and series of injuries is happening. So we're moving forward, these injuries keep happening, but I cannot break a court order as to not send him, but I'm doing the relevant and the most I could do. And this child was before the court and had a probation officer assigned to this child, which the duty of a probation officer supposed to investigate anything that happening with any child before a court in detail and inform the court. And that was not happening. So I left now had to complain about where is the systematic protection for children? From Children Authority, from the court, where is the systematic protection? And this child keeps getting injured and injured. So I reached out to the Single Fathers Association because I felt overwhelmed. As a man, I felt overwhelmed. I felt that persons was just, playing with my head and saying I am not capable to represent the voice of a child because, a woman will carry a child for 9 months and a father might maybe. And everybody override the fact that this child is crying out by the injuries. I'm just the voice. We went ahead and the Single Fathers Association assisted me at a function to meet with the acting director of Children's Authority at that point in time. Names is for stone, but however, who will know will know. And I was afforded the ability to the acting director to have a meeting to ask the question that what am I to do with a child that is being injured that is in your responsibility and duty of care to report? What am I to do as a parent? Just why I keep following up. The acting director asked the question, could you have proof of the first report that was sent? I said no. I went to the court and I got the report. And when I read that report had nothing to do with the child more than daddy say, mommy say. Daddy say, mommy say. It had no recommendation from the psychologist. It had no follow-up from the doctors who was concerned from Mount Hope who referred to the child to social services. None of that. Only daddy and what mommy say. And I am saying this could never be right for a child. This is supporting a narrative that it has some form of bacchanal between mother and father, and we're not dealing with the issue of the child. Nothing is there. So I was concerned and I went back to the director and said, listen, this is inconclusive. I would not say, I used to say false before, but I was told inconclusive is the word. That this don't have anything comprehensive for the welfare of the child, and the child is still going there. A year after, an investigation was launched again into the old injury and all the new injuries. And I asked the question, when an investigation is being conducted, what are the mandate of the authority to secure this child? I was told there are short-term, medium, and long-term recommendations. So I asked the question, where is the short-term? Where is the short-term, which is the immediate action? They said the child is before the court, they can't do anything. We just still have to let the child continue going. And the child continued to go. The next court date, they rushed to the court on August the 8th, after a year of injuries again, after numerous referrals from doctors to the welfare department to oversee this child based on child abuse. Medical reports will have child abuse question mark because a doctor cannot confirm that in the aspect of there are further investigations to be done by relevant institutes to move the question mark into correct or wrong. So it remains a question mark because everybody systematically believe that daddy trying to make some form of bacchanal. But what am I to do with the voice of a child that is crying out for the pain? The voice of a child in society could never be bacchanal. It could never reflect bacchanal. It's either it's truth or false. And if we as a society listening to the voice of children through adults as bacchanal, then something has to be wrong with us as adults. So we went ahead now. The report reflected before the court. I briefly read the report. When I read the report outside of the court, new psychologist, which was experienced psychologist that I paid and carried my son for. I couldn't keep a child that was crying out for pain and depending on the government. So I spent my money as a father to get results. And I went to one of the best specialists in this country. And in that report to Children's Authority, the person indicated it's too early to detect any signs of injuries. However, this child needs to continue because the child is not limited based on the child do not know how to express himself at that age. The cognitive domains are different, but maybe later on, he may be able to express. Children's Authority ignored that because it was facts and still made recommendation at that time in the court to either make the child a ward of the state or send back the child by the mother. What am I to do as a father? When the judicial officer is facing that recommendation, because remember, you have to kind of still give the judicial officer as the person who the facts is coming to him. So he's expecting, or her, he's expecting to read these documents that is so important to be factual and make a decision and such. I couldn't send my child as a ward of the state. So I had a block in my back with senior attorneys that had to sit down and say we have one or two choices. Either, and that is the sway answer the judge, either we send the child in the home or we send the child in the mother's care for this long vacation. Had to send the child in the care because that is what the attorneys from Children's Authority say. Mind you, they ain't studying the child being injured. The child went back into the care of the mother for 30 days. And on the 31st day, pick up the child with another sexual assault on this child. When that assault came now, the doctors look at the child file and say, Daddy, we have to bypass the normal protocol and we have to deal with this directly. Come tomorrow and we'll send this file downstairs to Children's Authority to examine this child immediately. I was explained that based on the 30 days, they're not sure of what day the injury happened or how fresh it was because it's 30 days, but the injury is there. It needs to be investigated. When I went down to CAC, they asked me how I come there, who sent me there. When I went to the child the next morning, I said, how you mean who sent me here? I have a referral from Mount Hope, doctors, who's pediatric doctors, send me here. What are your qualifications as a doctor to ask me who is here? And at that time, he explained to me, he is a general practitioner. I said, how could you question the pediatric doctors and you're a general practitioner? What authority you have to say that, what am I doing here? The pediatric doctors send me here. We move on, the child wasn't examined because they said that TTPS have to be present. No problem, they call TTPS. Mind you, the doctors call TTPS too as well. They call Children's Authority because that is their protocol. When they call TTPS, they explain, okay, child, we have a report here, yes, but we have no officers available to come. We'll have to schedule an appointment to the child to be examined. 4 days after, when I contacted, they have no scheduled appointment. I had to call a senior officer who assisted me, and he said, no, this is rubbish, and call the senior person in CPU, and had to send the same police that removed the child from the hospital the first time in favor of whatever is the same police that come back the next time. So when I saw the same police that came back who never investigate, I objected to that. I asked the question, what are you doing here? When I reported your actions to the authorities, what are you doing here? To cover it up again? The child was examined. The officers left with the report. Lo and behold, I was contacted some days after to say that the child have to come and do a forensic examination. No problem with that. I left my location and went to the with the child to the place. When I went to the place with the child, I saw the mother, they invited the mother to come there to say she's going to sit down in a room to listen to what the child have to say. When they're asking the child certain question, I said, but the mother tell her what happened yet? They say no. I said, the police take a statement from the mother yet? No. So how could this be right that you invite the mother who had the child to listen to what the child saying? I objected to that. I said, this is rubbish. This has to be rubbish. I went to a senior police officer after he resigned now, and he explained to me, Daddy, I don't want to hear nothing from you or mommy. I want to know what's going on with this child. And I applaud that senior officer. And he contacted CPU and appointed a sergeant to investigate this matter. Lo and behold, the judge called an emergency matter because everybody want to know who is responsible. Because the next injury happened to the child, who is responsible. Children's Authority run to the court with another report to state that the injury was caused by some history of constipation, when no medical report could have support that. Where questions was asked, where did you get that information from? They said the mother. So they say, well, how the mother could tell you that this is the cause and all they never examined to determine if it's yes or no. So it's some form of clear biasness, some form of clear favoritism, rather than seeking to the interest of this child. And that is the case that I have experienced that today, 2 years after that second injury, the Children's Authority made an application at that same court hearing to tell the judge to take the child from me and make the child a ward of the state, because it seems that I breaching court accesses to give the mother the child. And I asked the judge, what am I to do if I am seeing injuries happening to my child? The court closes 4 till 8 the next morning and on a weekend too. The police seems to not want to know or not know what to do when an injury happened to a child and matters is before the court to safeguard this child. Am I to continue to send this child? What am I to do as a parent? I have to take a risk. I have to take a risk, even if it means being convicted for the risk. I will live with that. What I cannot live with is 20 years from now, sitting down when I retire, drinking coffee for my child to say, I was abused when I was younger, and you never do nothing to help me out. I can't live with that. So I took the risk. They made an application at that court. When I asked the judge, I said, look, something happened again with this child. Why visitation access is not granted here? The judge swore to make the child a ward of the state. I was being punished, and this child was being punished because I was highlighting corruption, biasness, lack of being professional within the institute. So I had to be a blacklisted person in society, even my child, because I was highlighting that. People make mistakes. People make mistakes. It's not the mistake you make, it's what you do to correct the mistake that makes you an institute and have integrity. I decided I am not sending my child in no ward, no state. I stand up by that. These people reached onto my work and tried to interrogate me to tell my work, you have to drop the child. I say, going down, right down, because my child is being abused. Why are they muffling this child mouth for whatever favoritism going on here? An application was made for me to go before the High Court. Children's Authority took out a protection order against me, saying that I come in too much by them to harass them. When I, as a parent, come in by them to follow up the reports made by the relevant authorities, I harassing them. No problem with that. They asked the judge for a warrant to enter into any premises the field the child is in, under whatever section. And I put forward my claim in return, which at that point in time was a book. That if I put this book into public, people will question, are there trained judicial persons to treat with affairs of children? Are there attorneys in this country that specialize in child affairs and welfare? Are there a system in place for these children? And if it is there, it seems to be broken. It seems to be broken and not connected. And that is my story, that 2 years after that injury, I have a child on my hand that I'm trying to do the best by myself to recover from that. And it's only when that judge stand up before that application as a judge and explain that children have rights. Children have rights. We far believe that children do not have rights, but children have rights. And she represented that right before the court, even though I took blame as all because I didn't have mommy was right, daddy was wrong, children authority was right. No, it's the right of a child, and we all advocate for that child. And when we fail that child, how do you want that child to feel? And I was explained that before the court. I am the first responder to that child. And when I fail, how that child go feel? And there are other responders to this child. And when everybody fail, how do you want this child to behave after? How? And that is the cause of institutional failure, that children find different ways to behave after they realize that all the mechanisms has been failing them. They find different ways to behave. So that is my contribution in ending my story. And I hope that it makes a change, because the persons who was involved in, who laughed at me in Children's Authority to say I can't get no report, today them on the task force, on the task force to do what? To laugh at other people's children. And when I complained about this to senior persons in this government and this country, who is this daddy? He is a nobody. But it's not daddy's a nobody. You see that little child? That child is a somebody in society. And they have to hear these children, because they're crying out in all forms and fashion. So excuse my passionate thing about this, because within myself, these is issues I had to relate to. I went to media houses about this, and they're really grabbing along straws because they have friends and favors from persons that they can't air certain things. You have to go decide. I have to call this one before I hear that. And if they tell me no, it's no. So the child voices under the carpet. And that is happening with children. The voices are under the carpet. So I hope that story will assist persons. Mind you, I didn't do it alone. I couldn't do it alone. I met persons who today are activists of children, reached out to them personally, and they helped me along the way. They helped me along the way that today there are still voices of children in society. And I believe that I have to be a voice for other people's children as well. So I thank you for your contribution, for having me on this program today. It's the first time in 4 years that I'm allowed to speak on behalf of a child, that if 4 years ago they had listened to this child, 4 years after, a lot of people would not be going through what this child went through, and even worse.
Derek, thank you so much. And you would know that as parents, we are all equally passionate. And what is truly distressing is that each one of us has had the very same experience. There is institutional failure across the board. So whereas persons may be given to think that you are being victimized and re-victimized by these failed institutions because you're a male, take it from each one of us here. We have had the same experiences with the children's court, the family court, the children's authority, and the child protection unit. Every single state agency that the government has put in place for the care and protection of the nation's children, it is flawed and it is failed. There is corruption and there is collusion. And that is exactly what happened with you. It is what happened with Miss Clark. It is what happened with Miss Jules, and it is what happened with me. If they had listened to you and not accused you, there would not have been subsequent injuries. But because of the females' connections, there was conspiracy, collusion, corruption of the process. How would you examine a child 11 days after he is brought to you with an injury? When a DMO is asked doctor examines a child and a child is referred to the Port of Spain General Hospital, how does a child end up in the St. Clair police station? And then the parent is sent home. When a child comes back with subsequent injuries, how does a report from the Children's Authority say that there is no issue on their part, putting the child back in the hands of the abuser? How do judges sit to dispense justice in 20-minute hearings, some of them without even reading the case files before they come to them? Some of them have no children, have never been married, do not understand family life and parenthood from the aspect and the standpoint of having been a parent or being parents themselves. This is not an academic practice. The law is letter as much as it is spirit, and too many head knowledge individuals corrupting the system. Nobody advocated apart from Derek for the welfare and the well-being and the safety of his child. And as a male, he was punished. When Arita did it as a female, she was punished. When Miss Jules, when Tremaine did it, she was punished. When I did it, I was punished. So it is not a matter of gender. There is something else at play. And we have to determine what it is. And we have to address it and change it. We don't know each other. We have no connection. Apart from that, for being voices for our children who have been victimized and continue to be re-victimized by a corrupt system. Why is this happening across the board? Why is there no accountability? Why are judges, why are professionals, so-called professionals in the Children's Authority, why are they allowed to operate with impunity? Why is there no accountability? Why is there no transparency? These are questions that must be addressed. Thank you so much, Derek, for sharing it's not a story. It's your experience. Don't call it a story. You have shared your experience and your experiences. When people hear story, they tend to discredit and to dismiss. But this is an account of your experiences and the experiences of your son. Miss Clark, I am broken. I am broken all over again.
I am as well. I got so emotional because it made me relive my experiences that he states that he encountered. So every time I hear he say, this happened and this turned away, and it pained me. I even saw Tremaine. I could see where she was hurting because we as parents, all we are trying to do is protect our children. And you have a system combined of educated individuals who are blocking us from just protect. We bring our children into the world, that's all. We have a right to protect our children. And you have the system charging us as parents. Imagine you taking our children and making our children ward of the court without proper investigation. You are taking our children and placing them in institutions like my daughter. For what reason? Because we are defending our children? Madness going on in the system.
What is the rush? What is this fixation with taking children from homes with competent, rational, sound thinking parents and putting them in institutions? Why is our system so fixated on making our children wards of the court and wards of the state?
Is it for me, similar to Mr. Derek, is it that they're trying to punish the parent who is advocating? Is it that you are trying to muzzle parents from advocating for our children? Is it that, because when you muzzle, we as parents, you muzzle our children? Because my daughter at one time said, Mommy, you are just like the judge. You are bullying me. So when children feed off of us, they react. So if the system is what is attempting to block us as parents. They're blocking the children. And we can't say we are seeking children's interest when we are abusing the parents.
Hold up there, Miss Clark. She said that you were bullying her. Why? You need to clarify. Bullying you? Bullying her how? And for what?
She meant that just as how the judge will impose an order today for tomorrow, you have to go by your father tomorrow. She felt so if I said you have to do it now, at one time she was retaliating. Because in her mind, because remember she was a very young age, at a very young age, in her mind, but you're doing something similar. It's still different incidents, but she's seen it as something similar.
Why make a child a ward of the court? A parent, you told your story. My son came back to my hands. He was injured. I did what any rational, right-thinking parent would do. I sought medical attention. You danced this man around for 11 days to give the injuries a chance to heal. Why?
But I had something similar.
From the beginning.
I remember taking my child to the police station to make the report. They took 9 days before they, Miss Clark, and we were ready to go and do the examination. When we arrived at the medical institution, we got there at 11 a.m. The so-called DMO arrived at 6 p.m. When he arrived, his remark was, he started to interrogate me, what are you coming here for? What really happened? And I said, well, you know, she had some bruises, but the time it took, it would have disappeared. Is that all? I said, okay. He did examine the child. Upon completion of the examination, the police officer told me, well, ma'am, the doctor said he ain't seen no signs of abuse. And because you didn't say that the child was being sexually abused, he didn't look for those marks on the child's body.
Who is really assisting us as parents in terms of safeguarding and securing the health, welfare, and well-being of our children? The Children's Authority adopts an adversarial stance against us. The Child Protection Unit adopts an adversarial stance against us. The Family Court, the Children's Court. Where are we getting our help from?
Because look at Mr. Derek. He had to take money out of his pocket. Imagine I'm living in Tobago. They refer us for mediation. They refer us for this, for that. Everything I have to leave at my expense. When my child was a ward of the court, Trinidad Authority has to assess my child. I have to pay airfare, taxi, everything to take my child from Tobago to Trinidad. Why is that?
Wait a minute. If your child is a ward of the court, your child becomes the responsibility of the court.
100%.
So how is the court able to make decisions relative to if your child is to be examined, if your child is to see a psychologist, if your child has to have a forensic examination? How does the court get to make the calls but not for the cost?
Exactly. That is what we will define as the systematic abuse, institutional abuse.
Because in my understanding, Ms. Clark, if my child is a ward of the court, even if the child is physically in my care and control, once there's an order of the court that says my child is a ward of the court, it ties my hands.
Yes.
So then how do you tie my hands, but then use your hands to dip into my pockets?
100. Because I remember on one occasion, I made a DV application on behalf of my daughter. And the advocates who were representing the child flew from Trinidad, obviously at taxpayers' expense, and came to Tobago to inform the magistrate at the point that Ms. Clark don't have the authority to make any application on her child's behalf because the child is a ward of the court. But bear in mind, my child was a ward of the court from December 2015 until October 2018. Total madness.
When was your child born? Not 2013?
Yes, please.
And your child became a ward of the court in 2015?
December, yes, please.
So she was not yet 3 years old?
No.
And on what grounds?
we shall ask the learned judge, because obviously when you're making an application for wardship, Trinidad Authority should be involved. The various agencies, Child Protection Unit, because there would have been some sort of abuse. Yes. And my child, because of the same as Mr. Derek is sharing, bias and the same issue of access custody, because to date I'm still confused because I am a respondent in a custody application. The applicant is saying I'm not getting access. Made an application, what do you call it? Urgent application, urgent application.
Certificate of urgency.
And the learned, yes, please. And the learned judge made my child award of the court. So mathematically, I can't understand anything that happened there.
So there was no application for wardship.
Never was application.
Announcement of a judge in a hearing. Your child. So listen, when we as a litigants go before the court, we go believing that the person's with the responsibility that is charged the law actually know the law.
We think so, right?
As if they don't.
Yes. You can't remember when I had to get legal aid because this is a Christmas Eve. You took Miss Clark's child. Legal aid saying, Trinidad authorities saying, both of them saying, but you had no grounds to make the child award of the court. Well, probably I made a mistake. This is an expert that we are relying on to make the best decision for our children. And she's telling me.
You can't make a mistake. You can't make mistakes with people's children. And when mistakes are made, when judges and magistrates arbitrarily make mistakes and children become abused and children they end up harming themselves or children are killed, there is impunity. They continue to sit on the bench and preside over matters unaffected. After you've destroyed a family, after you have destroyed a parent's reputation, after you have ripped a family to shreds, there is impunity. Miss Jules, you're very quiet.
I am trying not to be this emotional, but it is difficult not to.
We can't help it. We cannot help it. This is very, very emotional. You understand? And it seems to me that once you're connected to the right people, then the wrong things happen to you. And as much as you continue to operate from a place of honesty and truth, it is the cheaters who prosper in the system, and our children lose in the long run. Who really cares about our children? Who can care for a child more than an invested and interested parent? Not everybody who has had a child is a parent. And I understand that there are times when parents in custody and access matters would weaponize orders of the court. So a parent will go and get a protection order and use that to demonize the other parent.
Yes, we are aware of that.
Let me tell you something. I have sole custody of my daughter. That is a high court order since July of 2015. In June of 2022, I am back before the court fighting to retain custody of my daughter. No new evidence, nothing to question my competence or my capacity or my capability as a parent. One false report made to the police, a lie told to the court, which has been investigated by the CPU, which they have given a report that the father lied, he forced the child to lie. He was never arrested and charged for wasteful employment of police time. The head of the CPU looks at me and says, well, the time for that pass now is only 6 months. You understand?
Yes,
so
please.
Because I am remarried and because the child is calling my husband daddy, you have the right to walk into a police station, to lie, and turn my life upside down. And here I am, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 7 years later, before the court.
You know what's baffling? Is that these men and women can't get their way with you, the individual.
That's
So
right.
they are using the system.
That's
They're
right.
using the police stations, the hospital to make the false allegations
That's right.
and the false injuries, and they're using the court. Because the court and the judicial staff are incompetent, lazy, and hesitant to even open a file at least the night before, it's a clear indication that they are just there for salary. They are just there for promotion.
That's right.
Because too many parents I have met, I've heard, have the similar experience of running back and forth between the police, between the court. And what is disturbing to hear when officers telling you, you have visual signs of abuse, and you are telling the police officers what is happening, and they're telling you when you get back to court, deal with it.
Tell
When
the
you go back,
magistrate.
yeah,
Tell
when
the
you go
judge.
back, when you go back to the court, you have the court telling you, why didn't you make a police report? When you go back to the police now, why didn't you take the child to the doctor?
Yes,
The hospital telling you, why didn't you take the child to the police station?
that's right.
So the
And they
question,
keep going
uh-huh,
round and round and round and round, as
mhm,
if they
mhm,
want you to become frustrated and just
yes.
give up.
But apart from that, to me, the easiest approach is to call parents who are advocating for our children as mentally unstable.
Oh,
That's
yes.
the fastest thing they love to say. The parent is
Emotional.
mentally unstable.
You want
I
to deny
remember,
father access. You're
yes,
wicked.
yes, I remember,
may I
And Derek
intervene?
is wicked and wants to deny the mother access.
yes,
May I, Yoli, I may?
yes,
Yes,
please.
I was also sent for a psychiatric evaluation
I,
as
I,
well.
I was
I
sent
was
for one.
also sent for a psychiatric, and I asked the doctor, I say, are you investigating my claims? No. So how could you evaluate me?
Yes. Because even when I was sent to the psychiatric unit at the Scarborough General Hospital, I said, what was first question as a social worker, what was I referred for? He said, nothing really. They just sent me to an assessment. I said, well, no, the judge must have seen some indication that I'm mentally unstable. So I let the judge know, but you don't have the capacity to send me for psychiatric evaluation. Who would tell the judge that? She
yes.
ordered, I remember that day distinctly. She called the police officers what do you call the family court there. Officer, come from Miss Clark. And she stood up. I stood up. She said, going down today. And I said, why am I going down? You're not giving the father access, so you don't want to comply. I'm like, but there's what do people say, more mad people outside than inside.
Yes.
But let us hear from Tremaine. Tremaine is just shaking her head. We want to hear from Tremaine this evening here.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
When we think about state agencies, we have to think about, duty of care, because they have a duty of care. They are mandated by law, to do certain things and to respond in a specific manner when it comes to our children. And unfortunately, that is not the issue in Trinidad and Tobago. Quite frankly, I would say they don't really care. The duty of care, the lack of care is not there. They don't care. These state agencies, they frankly don't care. I'm not saying everyone is bad, because I know for a fact that there are social workers, there are psychologists, they are trained professionals who really have the heart for children, and then there are the ones who are there just to collect the salary. And they don't realize the extent of the damage that they cause on children and their families when they make decisions you know based on false reports, based on persons who are not qualified. With my experience, started back in 2018, where I had to report an issue concerning minors and sexual assault. Um, when it had occurred, it was in the night, and I chose to, wait until the morning and take the child to the police station. At this point, the child had went to her grandfather and stated what was done, and stated that, well, mommy wants to cry me to the police station. And the grandfather's response was, you don't have to go anywhere with her, forget her, change your clothes and go to school. So, I there was a history of every time I said something was stood up for what is right, I would get put out or thrown out of the house. So at that point in time, I take a step back, and it was the afternoon, and I had called my boyfriend at the time, and explained the situation to him. And it was only when he came and he told the child, listen to me, your mother might hesitate to take you to the police station, but I am telling you, you have to get in the car and we are taking you to the station. And that is how we were able to go to the station with the child and make the report. Of course, the officer took the statements, and she stated that because of the nature of the incident, that she will have to forward the case to CPU. I'm being honest, I never heard of CPU before this time, so I'm like, okay, no problem. She said that the officers there will contact me to follow up on the investigation. 1 week passed, nobody in call, but I still took it upon myself to inform my son's principal of what had occurred, just in case that that he decided that this action was a normal action and he reciprocated it on somebody else. So I did inform the principal of such. Even the night at the police station, I had asked the officer if we could take him to get examined, and they said no, that is not the protocol. They have to make appointments and such, and then they will call you to get the children examined. 2 weeks passed, nothing. 3 weeks passed, no phone call. It was on like, I think it was a month, approximately about a month, I believe, after I got a call from a male officer, and he said that he was calling from CPU in Brasso, and that they got a report from Trinidad police station of sexual assault involving minors, and that they had to investigate the claims. And the first thing he asked me was if I was home or if I was on work. So I stated that I was on work, and the officer stated, okay, no problem, I will call you back. And that call never came. That call never came. I am thinking here, but isn't there some kind of protocol? Weren't they supposed to, refer the children to get counseling or something of the sort? That never happened. Instead, what had happened was one of the minors had developed a bacterial infection on their private parts, and I had to take the minor to get medical attention. And the doctor asked me, but how could a child at this age have such an infection? And it was then that I told the doctor what occurred. And the first thing he asked me, did you report this? And I stated, yes, I did. I had my receipt from the police station to show him. He treated the child, he gave the child antibiotics, and he did his part, and he referred the child to the social worker in the health center. Basically, what the social worker in the health center did was just call every now and then to see how the child was progressing, and that was it. I am jumping ahead to 2022, where I decided to sit and listen to the Parliament Joint Select Committee on Public Administration and Social Services. And Paul Richards had asked the question, what happens in a case where it involves two minors in a home, whether it be the residence of the minors or a community residence, and both minor and victim are minors. Sorry, both the victim and the offender are minors. Yeah, and the question was answered by Insurance Authority, and they stated in a case like that they would treat the offender as a child, because practically they are a child, it's a minor, so they would be treated as a child. But in the first instance, they have to secure the victim and make sure that the victim is secured and not in the way of harm. Next, they would the case managers would make the referrals for counseling and decide what's next for the victim and the offender. And I am here thinking like, but none of that happened back in 2018. None of that happened. So I decided now to write to the head of CPU and ask what is the protocol in such a case. I made mention of my case. I made mention that, the head of the CPU was present at the Joint Select Committee. So I'm asking you, what is the CPU's protocol in a case such as this? And, was protocol followed? Was Insurance Authority contacted by CPU following the report? I did not get a response. What I got about 2 hours after was a phone call from an officer at CPU, stating that they are following up on the 2018 report that I made concerning the minors. And I am like, seriously? I gave them the information that they requested. Approximately 2 hours after that, they contacted me again and they asked if I could come in with the minor to give a statement 3 years after. 3 years after the fact. So I took the minor. Of course, the minor was 3 when that incident occurred. And the victim, that is. So I don't expect the victim to remember what occurred. I on the other hand, I remember it as if it was yesterday, unfortunately. And I went to the station, took the child. Of course, the child was unable to give a statement because he could not have remembered what had transpired. I was able to give my statement, and my first question was, you all now getting this complaint from Canopy, and it was stated that no, the complaint was sent from Canopy that said year, and I'm like, so what happened? And of course, the officer couldn't answer because, of course, the officer was an officer who was not there at the time, but did mention that what's supposed to happen was the both minors were supposed to be called in. A statement was supposed to be taken, as well as from myself. The train was supposed to be taken for medical, and because of the age bracket, the I don't like to use the word abuser, but that's the reality of it. The abuser um, would not have been able to be charged because of the age. And the officer did quoted the name of the act and the law, etc. And that wasn't an issue for me. Charging wasn't an issue for me because that was not my intentions. I wanted help. I needed intervention for these children. And at this point in time, what are you all going to do? You can't do a medical now. Obviously, you won't find anything. So what was the next step? This was just like a slap in the face. I'm just calling you to make a report, to take a statement from you just to say that I did. 3 years after the fact, when nothing could be done but refer them to the victim support unit. And to me, this is gross negligence. And I would say this because at that point in time, if they had done CPU, had done what they were supposed to do at that point in time, my life and my children's life would not be in the mess that it is right now. Because after the fact, after that incident happened, the abuser was hard to control. She was totally hard to control. She was being controlled basically by my parents. Everything that I told her, she wouldn't listen. If I even talked to her in the slightest way, she would start to scream and bawl like if I'm murdering her. So, at the advice of a social worker at the courts, I decided to file a change application because, I had to reach my threshold and there wasn't anything else that I could have done. And I needed the child to get help. I filed the change application, and that, oh my God, that just turned into a circus. And I would say that because at the beginning, the master that was presiding over the matter, you could tell that she had a heart for children. You could tell that, she was into her job and she knew her job and she was about family and she was about, bringing the family back together and healing and recovering. And, she had referred me at the advice of the Insurance Authority for a psychiatric assessment. I know I did not have an issue with it because I was forthcoming with the Insurance Authority and everybody that I spoke to that years prior I was diagnosed with um anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. It wasn't a secret. There's nothing to hide because I think that we just shun persons that have experienced some sort of mental illness in their lives, and I wasn't about that. I just wanted to bring awareness that it's real, and the reality of it at some point in time someone may experience it, and so I was honest, and I did not have an issue with the judge making that order because she made herself clear. I am doing this because I need you to be good. I need you to be good in order for yourself and in order to take care of these children. So I did not have an issue with it. The psychiatric assessment, when I arrived at the outpatient clinic in Chaguanas, I saw my mother and her husband there. My mother was talking to this woman. I don't know who the lady was. It was only after the fact that she left and the person called me that I realized that it was the psychiatrist who was doing my assessment. It was a basic assessment, I would say, and I was not aware of the report. All I knew that when I was about to leave the clinic, they asked me for my clinic card back because it stated that I had no use for it, so they were taking back the clinic card. It was only after 3 years? After 3 years that Insurance Authority decided to go and get this report and disclose my medical report without my consent via affidavit to the court, and I was able to access it, and I saw that the report stated that there was no signs of psychosis, no cognitive abnormalities, but because of what my mother stated to the psychiatrist, that they think I should undergo further psychological testing. And I am like, I could understand if the psychiatrist who has all these years experience is stating, okay, I'm seeing something going on with you, no problem. I would have gone willingly, but the mere fact that you are telling me you are not seeing any signs of psychosis, you're not seeing any abnormal cognitivities, and you're telling me, you're referring me for further testing because of what was told to you by my mother. And I'm like, how is this even possible? Why? It just goes to show that even when you're honest, they just try to take it and use it against you in whatever way possible. Because I was honest, thinking that the information is there. If they wanted it, they could have gone to the hospital, they could have gone wherever and get it. I mean, if I didn't see anything, they would not go and find out anything elsewhere. But I was honest enough to state this was the case, and they constantly use that against me. Even in their case summary, they keep mentioning follow-up psychiatric help from issues, and I'm like, but psychiatric help for what? And these people, they really make it difficult, and at the end of the day, the judicial officers, as you all stated before, we go there with the belief thinking that they know the law and they are going to uphold the law and they are going to do what is right and just for these children in the best interest of the children. And they end up doing the opposite, the exact opposite of such, because the judicial officer was changed. As the loop article stated, a change of hands, a change of heart, and it went from someone who was caring and considerate and had the family's interests at hand to me being treated like a criminal, being belittled, being shouted at and spoken to in whatever manner they choose to. Even when my daughter, she was placed in my mother's care, up to now I am unaware of why that occurred. And when my daughter tried to reach out to me on several occasions, I would contact the social worker from the court, I would contact CPU, I would contact Insurance Authority, anybody you can think about it. And her cries fell on deaf ears, literally. You know, the first time she contacted me, she was stating that, that she was being mistreated in the care of a fit person. So I asked her, I said, you know what, you want to speak to a social worker, you want to talk to a police officer, somebody? Actually, the child stated yes. So I had called the officer from CPU and she stated, well, she was removed from the case by request, but she would inform her seniors. I went on to call Trans Authority and inform them, and of course they stated that they will pass on the information to the relevant authorities. I went on to call the court social worker and I gave her the number that the child called from. And, she called me back and she stated that she had a conversation with the child and that the child was not in a right frame, a right mental frame. It wasn't the child that she was accustomed talking to. She has stated, before that the child would say, well, I'm writing an essay and I'm going to pass for bishops. And, when she asked the child, well, where you want to pass essay for? The child was like, well, wherever I pass for, I will go. So, the attitude changed. And the social worker stated that they were going to have a case conference meeting with Trans Authority on the Tuesday concerning the matter and see if they could get an emergency hearing because something is clearly wrong. On that Tuesday afternoon, I tried to call the social worker probably about 3 or 4 times. She refused to take my call. I called the other day. She did not answer. I tried calling 2 weeks straight and she refused to take my calls. The issue was not even raised during the court hearings. The child reached out to me again via a game, Roblox, and for me, I didn't know anything about the game. The child told me, download it. You can't say everything because there's a safety mechanism there that, they block you from saying certain things. But, at least you can still speak. And this child reached out to me and stated, Mommy, I'm bored. And then after that, she was like, I am going to run away from my granny. I'm like, what? The first thing I did was pick up my phone, call Trans Authority. I tried calling CPU. Oh my God. I called CPU probably about 3 or 4 times. I did not get you. No one answered the phone. Bear in mind that it was a Saturday. I don't know if they are on duty on Saturdays. I ended up calling Kunupia police station and they asked me what vicinity the child was in. And I told them that the child was, in the Piaco area, and they told me to call the Piaco police station. I didn't call the Piaco. I said, you know what? The best thing to do would be to call 911. I would get a quick response. I called 911 and no one answered. No one answered. No one even knew that I had called 999. I had messaged my boyfriend who was in the middle of his EMT exams, and he asked me, you want me to come get you? And I was like, you pay so much for this exam. I said, write the exam and then afterwards you'll come. So I continued talking to the child, trying to calm her down, trying to understand what is going on. She wasn't saying much. All she kept saying is that she wants to run. Over the course of the next day, she had messaged and stated that that the grandmother was shouting at them. The grandmother was telling herself and her sister that, I am trying to help you all and all you want to run and go by all the mother. I have enough stress already. If all want all just go, let she do all whatever she wants to. All wants help. And even the child reached out to me and she said, no, Mommy, what's going on? I was like, trying to reassure her that, help is coming, because I have called all the state agencies thinking that somebody will do their job. And, I even called the court social worker and explained to her what was going on. And unfortunately, this lady called the grandmother and told her these children are talking to their mother. Find out how. And the children overheard. And, they messaged me and they told me. And the mere fact that they had to go through that and find out first, and that they can't even trust the social worker. You can't even trust the social worker. Instead of you do your job, you're telling the grandmother, the children are talking to their mother, find out how. You're not trying to investigate what is going on. All you're concerned about is the children are speaking to their mother. um, it came to a point that I got a message from her stating, I hope when I do whatever I have to do, everybody is happy. And I'm thinking, this song is like suicide. This is song and right. So I dropped everything that I was doing, went to the Piaco police station to make the report. They were very hostile, refused to take the report, and they are stating that, that is not their area and that I need to go Aruka. They were very, very hostile. So I left there and I journeyed to Aruka police station, and the WPC there, she took the report, I showed her the messages. She asked me for the number for the fifth person, which I gave her. She called. And she told the fifth person she just wanted to check up on the children and that she wanted to have a chat with them. She asked the children if they were good because she had the phone on loudspeaker, if they were good. And, they said, yeah, they were good. And then the second thing she asked, do you all want to see your mommy? And they shouted yes. They shouted yes in excitement. And when they shouted yes in excitement, the fifth person, who is my mother, she snapped the phone from them and she started saying, no, she cannot come here. Trans authorities had already said that she's a mad woman. She's a St. Anne's case. She's supposed to be in St. Anne's. She's a patient of St. Anne's and she is mentally ill and she cannot come here. So the officer said, okay, whether that is true or not, I am just telling you that, we want to accompany the mom to see the children to make sure that her kids are okay. And she shouted, no, she cannot come here. Trans authority said she's a mad woman. She cannot come here. And the officer, she went on and on giving the officer phone numbers for persons in the court and trans authority. The officer eventually hung up and she was like, you need to get CPU involved because something is clearly not right. She said, there's not much that we could do at this point in time, but I am grateful that she still took the time to call the church. She still took the time to take the report. And I went home crying because it was like my child is telling me that she hopes when she does what she has to do, everybody is happy. And I'm praying and hoping to God that this child doesn't hurt herself. And it so happened the following day, she messaged again and she was like, she can't take it anymore. She has to go. And I was telling her, what I informed Trans Authority, I informed everybody else, and she was like, you don't understand. These people take too long. And when I asked her, you're going to run, I'm explaining all the dangers of running away. And the first thing I asked her is, where you going? You don't know. And it wasn't her voice. I heard it in her voice that she couldn't take it anymore. And I had to make a decision because, quite frankly, no one was taking it serious. No one intervened. No one. Trans Authority, CPU, no one intervened. And, they started saying, Mommy, I'm going now. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going now. And I said, hear what? I said, you have a neighbor next door who is a police. I said, see if the neighbor home. She came back and she said, the neighbor isn't there. And then, she said, but I'm going. I said, okay, hear what? I said, you already make up your mind. I tried all how to, defuse the situation. I explained the dangers and you insisted that you have to go. And the safest thing that I can tell you to do at this point in time is go to the nearest police station. And, she said, bye, Mommy. And that was it. That was the last conversation that I had with her. Approximately 5 p.m., I got a call from a WPC at the Piaco police station. And the first thing she asked was, do you know why we are calling? And I stated yes. And she asked me if I could come to the station because they have the minor in their care. When I arrived there, the minor was seated in a corner in a state. It had broke my heart to see her like that. And my mother was there with her husband and my other daughter. And they had separated everyone in the station because they realized it was a tense situation. When I'm sitting there, my mother is mouthing to me all these explicits, and I am like, seriously. When I told the officer, she was like, look how this girl lying on me. Oh my god. And she went on to go on the phone to call my father to tell me that, I'm lying on her in the police station and that he needs to kick me out of the house. Notwithstanding that, I showed the officer all the evidence, the messages, etc. She then spoke to the fit person who gave her some phone numbers for somebody at the court and somebody at insurance authority. The officer spoke to both persons, and they she was explaining to them the extent of the situation, and she told them to come and get the child and take the child into their care and custody, and proceed to get an emergency hearing. And the persons refused. They said there's a court order in force, and the fit person has an interim order for custody and care, send the child back. So the officer was like, but the child ran away from there. Something is clearly wrong. And the persons on the phone told her, no, send the child right back. So there you have it again. Insurance authority, the court. You're telling me because there's a court order in force that you replace a child, you put a child back into danger. And I was in a mess because then the child was all crying and hysterical, and my mother was with this smile on her face like if she had won a battle. Up to this day, I have not recovered from that.
Tremaine, you want to take a pause? Tremaine?
I think
Tremaine.
I will continue.
You're very strong. Go on.
And I had been constantly at that point in time. I had hired a lawyer. I paid $20,000 for nothing because this lawyer did absolutely. I have to say she did nothing, because even when I provided her with the text messages, everything, it's like she failed to forward everything to the court. She failed to forward it to insurance authority. So it was a waste of my time, a waste of my money that I really didn't have. Oh, my boyfriend had to go and take a loan to pay that lawyer fee, and it was an absolute waste. And I had been calling insurance authority every day, trying to find out what is going on. And they started to give me attitude until I had to jump on myself and let them know that at the end of the day, this is my daughter, and I have all rights to want to find out what is going on. This situation, I would say, was never dealt with because insurance authorities wrote a report to the court stating that they don't see an issue with the child placement, nothing is wrong. My mother went to court. When she was asked about it, she said no, the child did not run away, she just stepped out for a few moments. And this was accepted. And the thing was, I had a police report from when I made the initial report concerning the child making the threats to run away, and then I had the report stating that the child actually did run away, and there you all are in court stated nothing is wrong. Children just don't run away for no reason. The child was crying. She cried on several occasions, and all occasions, insurance authority of Trinidad and Tobago and the insurance court failed this child. They all failed this child, because you're telling me, even when I contact the insurance authority, I'm asking them, what is the protocol? They are telling me in cases like that, the fit person have to take the child to the nearest hospital to see the psychologist in the hospital. I'm like, but the child running from the fit person, so you telling me the person I'm running from have to take me to see the psychologist? Like, if I am going to be honest and say what I want to say, knowing that the fit person is there, come on, you all need to have better sense, and that common sense goes a long way. Not everything is book sense. And I'm like, this is madness. This is absolute madness. And it was never addressed. Instead, Trans Authority stated that I encouraged the child to run away. When the fact of the matter is that they failed to act when they got the information that the child stated that she was going to run away. And I was left with the choice as a mother to either let my child run away and not know where she is. She could have been killed. She could have been raped. And I was left with the decision, and the decision I made was to go to the safest place, which was the police station. And this child is saying that she's crying out for help, and these people are ignoring her. But she's not looking at it as these people are ignoring her. She is looking at it as mommy is ignoring her. Mommy is feeling when I'm crying out for help. I would jump ahead to when, she had passed SEA. No one had the consideration to call me and tell me where my child had passed for. I had to hear from a parent who, said, I know she's not with you, and I heard she passed to this school. And, I was appreciative of that. But the mere fact that the trans authority, the mere fact that the fit person, the mere fact that no one in authority took it upon themselves to say, you know what, your child wrote exam and she passed to this school. I really don't know what to say about that. It is disheartening to say the least. And not too long after that incident, the child, she started making friends. It was online schooling, but she started making friends. And, she used to continuously keep talking about this one friend that she had. And, I would engage her in the conversation. And these were during supervised access, supervised phone calls. And, she stated, well, mommy, my friend told me to tell you hi. I was like, okay, tell your friend I said hi. And she said, like, no, my friend wants to tell you hi for themselves. I was like, well, that's not nice, you. And, after the supervised call ended, I got a WhatsApp message. It was a voice note from the friend stating that, hi, mommy, I'm so-and-so's friend, and I just wanted to say hi, and that she always talks about you. The both girls always talk about you, and they really miss you. I I was in a mess because it's like I have this minor here who is talking to me and telling me these things now. And I stated, I am fighting, but I am tired. There's only so much that I can do, and that she has to speak out. I know that she's scared, but she has to speak out because there's only so much I can do. If she doesn't speak out, she may never get the help that she needs. And the minor had stated to me, what, I am begging you, please don't stop fighting for them. Please don't stop fighting for them. Whatever you do, don't stop fighting for them. And there was a point in time when the minor said that that they're always being monitored every time they're on the phone or if they're on the tablet. The fit person is always there monitoring them 24/7. And there was a point in time that the girls went to the fit person, which is my mother, and told them, you know what, we're missing our mom. We want to go home. We're missing mommy. And they shouted at them and they told them, no, what home you want to go? The only home all they're going is in that children's home. I will put all in at home. All in going my no mother. What's the best for all here? I know this minor here is in the middle of this now, having to relate this message via voice note to me. And I'm like, this is too much. Again, reach out to Trans Authority. Reach out to everybody, the court, everybody I can think about. And, nobody intervened again, no kind of intervention. It was like, you crazy woman just blabbing again. So, not important. It reached a point that the minor messaged me and stated that, that the child is talking about death and, that she just want to die, etc. So, I'm like, oh, good Lord. Here we go again. Call the court again, the social worker. I must say that particular social worker, she really tried. Trans Authority, failure again, nothing. No one did any kind of investigation. Again, the report stated nothing wrong with the child. The child is in a safe environment, that she should remain where she is. And the social worker report, revealed that, that she has no reason to believe that I am lying because, I forwarded the message, I forwarded the voice note that the minor had sent, and it made mention that the child was seeing a very established child psychologist here, and that the child stated that she was not comfortable talking about everything with this child psychologist. And here you have this on a report. And you're reading this in the report and nothing ain't clicking in your brain. it have to have a certain level of trust between a client and the therapist. And clearly the child was telling you that the trust there, no, but not all that amount of trust that I can tell you what I already want to tell you. And you didn't think to yourself as a judicial officer, well, you know what, since you're not comfortable with this therapist, let me switch and see, you know, if it make a difference. Nothing of the sort was done. It was just left as that. You know, when the judicial officer asked the child about the messages and the friend, and she stated, I don't know who that person is. I have never heard about that person. And so she said, so the judicial officer asked, so where your mom? Your mom, you're trying to say your mom make up all this? And the child stated, yeah, she make up all this. She is in need of some serious help. And I hope she gets the help she deserves. And I was like, oh my god, you know, I was disappointed, but at the same time, I knew that she was in a survival mode, because you were sitting there with the fifth person next to you. Obviously, you're not going to say what you have to say, because of course you're feeling threatened. So, you know, I wasn't angry. And the mere fact that, you know, after all these reports and all these, you know, all this evidence, nothing was done. No one intervened until the child stated that she doesn't want any interaction with me anymore. She doesn't want any phone call. And, you know, they said, well, we have to go with what the child says. If the child is not comfortable talking to you, well, we are ceasing the phone calls. You know, and it broke my heart. It broke my heart, because I knew that I failed her to an extent. I tried but failed, and I failed because the state agencies failed to act. They failed to perform their duty. And, you know, it was just sad. And it came to a point that, you know what, I was fighting until I said, this is too much for my emotional health. And at some point in time, I don't want to let go, but because of the amount of stress that is putting myself and my fiance and my other children through, I decided, you know what, the child spoke up and you all didn't want to listen. And now she, you know, she's in survival mode, stating that she wants to stay with the fit person. You know what? I told her, I say, you know what? I had enough of this. If it's this what you want, I say, so because you saying you wanted that, I am saying if you want to stay there, you stay there. It's not what I want, but you're stating you want to stay there. It's not that I'm giving up on you. Mommy is still here. I was seriously emotional that day. And, you know, I even told her, you know, even when your other sister is getting gifts and you are not getting none, it's not because, and I don't want to send any, but it was because of a comment that was made in the court that I was bribing the child with gifts. I don't understand how me buying gifts for my own child was a bribe, but that is what it was said. So, you know,
Tremaine, hold on. Tremaine, who made the comment that you were trying to bribe your own daughter with gifts?
firstly it was my mother. And, you know, when I made that comment, um my mother jumped up in court and she was like, but who said that? Nobody didn't say that. I don't think nobody said that. And the judicial officer was like, it was said. I know exactly who stated. I won't say who stated it, but it was said. I remember that it was said. You know, the judicial officer went on to say that she found it ridiculous because she sees nothing with a mother wanting to buy stuff for her children, because that is what parents do. And, you
Exactly.
know, I had think that I had moved on from that point. And there goes trans authorities attorney stating that, you know, even if you buy stuff and give it to her, I don't think that, you know, it will, you know, warm her up to you or anything of the sort. And I got so annoyed because I just got past this.
Hold on. The Children's Authority attorney made that comment to you?
Yes,
So that
yes.
is so unprofessional.
Well, you know, I had to say that, and, you know, the judge, the master, sorry, had to tell them, you know, we just went over this point, we just discussed that. Let's not go back there. And, you know, I told my daughter that I love her. Mommy is here for you. I'm always here for you when you need me. I'm not going anywhere. And, you know, I told them I would give the consent for her to stay there. if it is that, I get updates on her, because I don't talk to my mother. My mother used to abuse me. She's still abusing me, using the system, abusing me. So I don't speak to her. So I won't call, to ask, well, how the child is going. I don't want to be affiliated with her in any way. And, the trans authority was there stating that in order for them to give updates, the matter have to be before the court. And I'm here stating that, everyone is traumatized by this whole experience. Everybody wants this to be over with. But you all are telling me in order for you all to monitor the child and give me updates, the matter have to be before the court. I said, here what? I said, all the fix up and do what they have to do. And the judge was like, no. Your input matters. We need to know what you want. I stated I want this to be over. I said I'm giving the child consent based on what she wants, not what I want. But if the trans authority is stating the matter has to be ongoing in order for them to do what they have to do, I said, well, then I can't say anything. This decision was made to end the matter, and the trans authority were ordered to give quarterly updates to me on my daughter for a year at least. And that was the end of that matter. 3 years before the court, and it was like a circus. That 3 years before the court caused more damage than anything else. So first I had the CPU causing the damage by not following up on their investigation, and then I had the court here that treated me like if I was a criminal, that ignored the cries of my child. And even approximately about a month ago, I saw my child, my daughter, why she came to pick up my other daughter at school, and she was like, she has to be hiding and looking behind her back to see if the fit person or her husband is watching to see if she's interacting with me. I know when she realized nobody is around, it's hug up, hi mommy, how you going, taking out photos. Imagine my child had to be sharing photos with me and telling me, mommy, when I give it this, make sure and don't tell granny I give it. You could tell me that? The mere fact that a child could be saying that, it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. And every day that my child is there, it's like they just digging out a little piece of my heart every day, because I tried, but because of this failed system that we have.
Let me tell you where you failed, Trumi. The only place that you failed, I think all of us failed to some extent, is because we put our faith and trust in the system. And we believed that the system would work for us. We trusted the process. You have not failed your daughter otherwise. You know what is amazing to me in all of this? All the cries that your daughter made, nobody heard those cries. Nobody listened to her voice. But when she said, I don't want to have any more access with my mother, that is when they heard her voice. And that is the court.
But you know what led to the daughter saying, I want nothing more with my mom? Because she's the grandmother. One, not even the grandmother, the rejection she's getting, as well as she's frustrated.
Yeah.
That child is frustrated to the point, the love I want to share with my mother, the bond I want to have with my mother, I can't have it over the phone, because I experienced that with my daughter.
Yes.
When she was in the home, and I remember calling my mother. And one time my mother was crying because she was telling her grandmother, I don't want to talk to you over the phone. I want to see you in person. And this is a child who was barely 3 years old. So if you speak about a teenager, you know how much emotional pain and anguish she's going through?
That's the hurtful part about it. And the thing
that she's trying to protect her mother as well.
Yes.
Children will say what they're expected to say to protect a parent that they love.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're putting children in situations where they still have the emotions of a child, but you want them to reason as an adult, and it puts them in a place where they're conflicted. This system is doing so much damage to all of our children.
The system is destabilizing children.
Listen to me, and these people continue to operate with impunity.
Mm-hmm.
The Children's Authority has a mandate, a statutory mandate for all children in the nation. And what I am realizing is people with connections, because Tremaine's mother is married to someone who has a supervisory position in the judiciary. Derek came at
Oh.
this afternoon about the child's mother having connections in the TTPS, right? The litigant, the father in my case, is closely connected with a senior official in the family court.
I'm speculating, feeling that the same applies to me because there were occasions when documents should not be released to any parties. The father of my child had copies of those, and I'm saying, well, how he's getting copies, so therefore you
But
befriend someone within the system.
How could one of the former judicial officers presiding over your matter say to your child, your grandparents are here and they would like to see you? How you
Oh
know that?
yes, yes,
How
yes,
did she
yes.
know that?
Because
Connections, the under the table
yes,
dealings and the backdoor connections. And let me tell you something. When judicial officers say, my friend on the other side,
yes.
because the legal fraternity is a close-knit fraternity, it's like a mafia. And
Because
what I have come to realize is they don't respect us. They
no,
look
no.
at us as lesser. They look at, I don't know whom they think they're dealing with. So I don't know if it's a mindset that they believe is people from particular sectors of society that come before the court.
Yes.
And then they find out that we have degrees too, and we are educated too, and we have government jobs too, and we can read and understand, and then they hate us differently because we feel we're too bright now.
Yes, yes. Who are you? Who are you to argue with them?
We meet them, and then when we show that we understand the process, because the law is fairly straightforward,
Yes, it is.
they complicate it to make us have to buy into the mafia, to make us have to pay one of their friends as an attorney. And then you go to court and the attorney is not representing you.
Because I'm hearing Tremaine is saying she had to get $20,000. Her boyfriend had to take a loan.
Yes.
And what bothers me, these money we could spend on our children.
We could be investing in our children's future. Exactly. I paid an attorney in full. And then I pointed out to the attorney, I said, listen, Madam Justice is being incautious. I am pointing out all the discrepancies. I say, you need to put this before the court. I would like to have my matter heard by another judicial officer. Time passing. I say, what happened here? You never raised that matter because you have other clients with matters before Madam Justice. And I don't want to aggravate that woman because she has a reputation in the judiciary. When you upset she does make your clients suffer. What? So you're willing to sacrifice me, sacrifice my child after we paid you in full? You hear what I'm telling you?
Yeah, clearly. And you see, we have these judicial officers sit at the head of the table making decisions. And all I can see is that they're bullying attorneys, and through the attorneys, they're bullying the clients.
Let me tell you something.
They shouldn't buy it.
Let me tell you something. In 2015, I paid a lawyer, an attorney, $35,077 per month.
Cut up the dogs.
Right? That attorney now sits in the Children's Authority. She's now on the board of the Children's Authority. Right? I paid another attorney now, a senior attorney in full. That attorney is connected, is related to a judge, a Supreme Court judge. Right? My money is going down the drain.
Yes.
But my same former attorney is knocking glass and liming at the home of the judge.
Yes. Because they got the favors in the matter.
Is a mafia. And we are being sacrificed. They don't care about us. They don't care about our children. So the Prime Minister and Justice C. Prasad and the head of the law fraternity are all lamenting the fact that cases are taking so long to be adjudicated. And they're talking about the criminal justice system. What about the family court,
Family.
children's court? Is the same things happening here? Why are there no audits being done? Who is auditing these people? Why are these cases not being audited? There needs to be a forensic audit of not. Hanif Benjamin came as a former chairman of the board of the Children's Authority to talk about an HR audit. Nobody needs an HR audit. There needs to be a forensic audit of all the cases. The Children's Authority, there needs to be a forensic audit of the Child Protection Unit. There needs to be a forensic audit of all the matters, the masters, the judges, the magistrates, and the cases in the Children's Court and the
But Miss Mitchell, look at my case. 8 years before court.
Your child is 9.
8 years.
Madness.
8, and you know what is most disturbing? Matter adjourned without a hearing date, no trial date. So where do I stand?
That is madness. Are they allowed to do that under the law? They are further denying you and your child access to justice. They don't understand that when they fail to make a deliberation, a determination, and a judgment, it keeps our children unstable.
Yes, you're correct. And that just
undermines and compromises their equilibrium, but they don't care.
Ms. Mitchell, we both asked each other the same question. Do these judges have children? Do they have grandchildren? Do they empathize with us? Do they understand what we are going through?
It is just the letter of the law, but the law also has spirit. If a parent comes to you and says, my child left for weekend access, rather than bring the child back home, the non-custodial parent went to the station with an injured child. My child did not get injured. And I say to you, I'm coming to you, filing a certificate of urgency, which is not inexpensive. How do you turn around and say, well, that is urgent. I come to you on the 5th of February, and on the 8th of February, you are telling me, come back before you on the 27th of May?
Madness.
So what? The child was going to remain in the custody, under the custody care and control of the non-custodial parent who had clearly breached an order that you yourself had put in place?
But you know what bothers me further? When children are being damaged physically and mentally, this judicial system called the judges and magistrates, they're not paying the expense for us, you know. No. They are not paying the money for the damages that they are causing to our children, you know. No. All these children who went into these institutions called homes for children, is the judiciary sending them there most times?
All the time.
Were they following up?
No, they don't. All they look at, our children, we are a case number. We are a file number. And that's it. So when you, now imagine this. So when you said, after I made my certificate of urgency application on the 5th of February, when you said on the 8th, I will see you on the 27th of May, the goodly Chief Justice came and said, suspension of all virtual matters. You know when my matter was adjourned to? The 9th of February 2022. So all that time, the non-custodial parent would have had the child in his care and control. The mistake that he made was he went to the magistrate's court and got a DV protection order against me and my elder daughter.
Wow.
At the end of the 21 days, when I went before the magistrate, she said, listen, what you're trying to do, you can't do that here. Give the woman back her child. I got my daughter back 24 days after, on the 17th of February. His attorney came to court and said, this whole thing mushroomed from when my client went and made a report, and then my client went to the Arima Magistrates Court and got a protection order against Miss Mitchell and her elder daughter. He said it in court twice. My attorney didn't pick up on it. His attorney didn't pick up on it. The judge didn't pick up on it. I had to make the point. I said, it is strange that counsel should make this point When the rule of law states that once a child's custody has been adjudicated at the high court level, no magistrate could issue a protection order on her behalf. That alone should have nullified it. You know, we're still in court a whole year plus later. The judge didn't know the law. My attorney didn't know the law. His attorney didn't know the law. You cannot even go to the family court to get a protection order on her behalf, because at the family court, masters preside over domestic violence.
Yes, please.
And a master cannot make an order for a child whose custody has been adjudicated by a judge. Even the judge did not know that. I had to point it out.
But Ms. Mitchell, reflecting back to Mr. Derrick's claim of making his child a ward of the court, and reflecting to my case of my child being a ward of the court, I'm asking myself, are these judicial officers abusing their powers?
That's an abuse of power.
If you are dealing with a custody/access matter, how
you reach the ward of the court?
Exactly.
It's a punitive action on their part. It's almost like if you don't back down, if you don't get the other party what they want, you know what? It puts you in the Solomon position, because a real mother or father would bite the bullet and say, at least let the child go in the other parent care. But when you think about the horrors and the atrocities
what the child has experienced,
children's home, a real parent will say, oh God, no, 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 as bad as it is, let the child go with the mother, let the child go with the father. So they put you in the Solomon position. Let me tell you what I've realized with the Children's Authority. Apart from the fact that it is a rogue, renegade, and runaway authority. And Ms. Jews and I visited the office of the Prime Minister, and we said it to Maxine Richards. 100 Frenchmen can't be wrong. So many people in the society can have the same problem. It's a culture. And the first to report is often believed. And when they come to Ms. Jews, when they come to me, you know what they're going to do? They're going to come to hear through filters and to see through blinders, to corroborate what the party who already made a report, false as it is, has said about us. I have been backing and forth with the Children's Authority. I said this report is erroneous. These things are misrepresentation. We never said these things. The things that I said, they are not in the report. Elizabeth Lewis danced me around until I finally had to put it in the hands of the Ombudsman. But I said to them, I said, if it is, you are telling me that you're willing to lose your reputation, you're willing to lose your credibility based on a false report, I said, then I will publish my report in the media, because it is
well, the same applies to me, you know.
Try to muzzle you. When your child is going to be identified, and that is going to cause your child harm.
You put yourself in the public domain.
My daughter said to me, Mommy, it's not true. Publish it.
Wow. Publish it. Yes. Because if we don't tell the untruth,
it's going to happen to somebody again. And let me tell you something. People lie, but patterns do not. It is a pattern of operation with the Children's Authority. How you going to look at somebody and tell them, well, let me see you prove that.
I mean, I made a mistake in law. Well, I can't remember that.
How you would put a person's child in a children's home and say, well, like I make a mistake. And you know what's killing me is how they double down on their dotishness. You made a mistake. They didn't correct it in 2015.
No.
Award of the court until 2018, when another judicial officer had to come and say, but wait a minute, my sister made a mistake here. This is an error, not even an error in judgment. This is a breach of law, and had to change it. And you telling me you still sit on the bench presiding over People Matters?
And People Matters right now.
The same degree of incautiousness in 2022 as in 2015. Now, when it was 2015, she had been on the bench only from 2013. September 2013 is when she got on the bench. In 2015, I was saying, well, okay. But in 2022, you are still the same incautious individual. It is just who you are. You should not be presiding over family matters.
Well, Miss Mitchell, we may have to end very shortly.
Yes, and we will have to come back
And
to
we have
this.
to continue because this is really an intriguing, educating, informative discussion. And we're not finished here.
No, we're not even
Tremaine,
scratched the surface. We have to meet
Tremaine,
again. Tremaine
we'll
and
meet
Derek
again.
and Arita, we have
Definitely.
to come back and continue. This
We now
conversation
start.
has to be had.
We
These
now
conversations
start.
must be had.
So thank you everyone for being here with us this afternoon. Thank you, Tremaine. Thank you, Derek. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ms.
for
Mitchell. And we will see again. And when we do see again, we're not going to hold back anything. Every
No,
prejudice we face before the court, we are going to outline it, highlight it.
yes.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for viewing. Have a
Thank
pleasant
you.
afternoon.
Take care,
last night
everyone.
to all. Bye.
Yes,
Take
please.
care,
Bye.
Derek. Take care, Tremaine, Arita.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, I already looking to log off.
Well, let me log off.
No, I was looking